Hey everyone, today we are going to be talking about WordPress, which is this thing here. So, this is tutorial 1, it's an overview of what WordPress is about. So I'm going to cover some fundamentals about websites and talk about WordPress, which is a CMS, a content management system, and I'll explain what one of those thingies are. WordPress, you may have, you would have, I guarantee that every single one of you has visited a WordPress website before. I think 25 or 30, somewhere between 25 and 30% of all websites in the world are built on what's called WordPress. And I would say that maybe 80 to 85% of all websites are built on what's called a CMS, a content management system. So I'll explain what those are. So, before we get into WordPress itself, I want to talk about some fundamentals of websites. Boring stuff, maybe, but I think it's worth knowing. And there's a lot of, like anything, like Facebook or anything else, or email. There were things that I guess when I was going to university in the, 90s, there were things that only geeks knew about, really. And now everyone seems to have an app or have a smartphone or use email. So this is something that's becoming more and more kind of common knowledge to people out there. So I'm going to assume you don't know too much, but you do know some terms about the internet. And I'm not going to get too technical, but I am going to explain some 3 fundamental pieces of a website. And then you understand where WordPress fits into that. So if we go to the slide here, I've got 3 shapes. Okay, so the first thing, I'll explain this diagram. When you go to a site, so for example, I'm just going to go to CNN, which is a website. It will load up the news of the day, something about Trump, obviously. And this here is your domain name. In New Zealand, so another Trade Me. We go to Trade Me, .co.nz. That's a type of extension that your website has, that a lot of websites in New Zealand have. They have them because then it identifies that you're going to a New Zealand website. It quite helps when you're shopping online that it's, this website's targeting New Zealand people. They're called DLTs actually, but they're extensions of the website. And the website name is Trade Me. It might sound self-evident, but that's the name of the website. The www just simply says that shows you that it's on the internet, and there is no what's called subdomain. It's just one website. And if you put Trade Me into this taskbar using Chrome, it'll take you to Trade Me because it knows that you meant that you were going to Trade Me. So the .co.nz is really important. What comes before it, not so much. .co.nz is really important, and the reason why it is important is it identifies what's going to Trade Me New Zealand. Let's just say there was a Trade Me America, it might have trademe.com, and it might actually be a completely different website. Trade Me wouldn't be happy about that in New Zealand, but they might not necessarily have the rights for that name in America. Now, you buy a domain name from a lot of anywhere really online these days. And it's the fundamental thing you need. So once you come up with your business idea or your blog name, you generally buy a domain name, and they range in price. If they're a special domain name, if you want something, you go, I really want that, just like a car number plate is exactly the same kind of concept. You might pay extra for that. If you develop a property, then sometimes you get to choose what your address is, your street address is. And a domain name is very much like a street address. So let's say we were developing a new subdivision, and we wanted to name the street Hill Street, and we wanted to have a piece of land or somewhere, an address there that we called 10 Hill Street. A domain name is exactly the same as the address. So here we go, the domain name. And in this website that we're going to be working on, a website called mymembers.co.nz, which happens to be, I'm just going to go there right now, My Members, which just happens to be a website that I have bought, a domain name that I have bought. I'll hide you for a second. So, a website is an address, simply an address. It has a name. Sometimes you don't even put the www at the front. A name, and it has an extension. So I bought this in a New Zealand domain name called from Crazy Domains, and I just said I wanted to buy this website, and they said yes, that's available, and I bought it. Now you don't, even though I use the term bought, you don't actually buy a domain name, you rent it, and usually for a year at a time. And a domain name usually a domain name costs you around, for a standard website that's pretty unique and you're not really trying to get coke.co.nz, then you're usually paying around $30 a year, 30 New Zealand dollars a year, or 20 American. And if you're paying more than that, then maybe you need to figure out why either you're getting ripped off or the domain name you want is quite popular. So you rent that. So I've rented this for a year, I think. And that is just simply the address of our house, 10 Hill Street. It doesn't do anything else, unfortunately. It's cool. It helps people recognize that that's our website, and that's most likely usually your company name or your blog name. So it identifies you like a car registration plate or an address. However, it doesn't actually do anything else. It doesn't actually have a piece of land associated with that address. It doesn't have a car associated with that plate. It just simply has an address. And a lot of people get confused about this because when they're not really informed or have been told some falsehoods, then they think that buying a domain name gives them a place where they can make a website. Well, it doesn't really. It just gives you a place or an address that someone can put into the URL, but it doesn't point anywhere. It doesn't actually land anywhere. It doesn't have any content behind it. So going hand in hand with a domain name is something called web hosting. And we usually buy these things together, and it's usually a pretty simple process these days that anyone without any web skills can do. A web host sells you a domain name generally at the same time, and you buy both of them. But they're worth understanding the difference, that a domain name simply points to a web host. It's just simply an address, and a web host is your piece of land. It is your fundamental piece of land that you've bought. And you rent, when I say bought again, you rent a web host. And you rent it for usually on a month-by-month basis. Usually charged that way, but I'd buy it for at least a year. The web host is simply your piece of land in the world of the web. And there's many places you can buy that piece of land, and in physical terms, it's simply a computer on the internet where you've got a little slice of that, and that allows you to put your files on. The web host contains the files that you need for your website, and your domain name points, when someone enters that into their web browser, it points to the web host, and the files that are there are displayed to the user, and that's the website. So a website actually lives on a web host, and the domain name simply happens to be that right address. Now, with web hosting, that piece of land, or that little piece of computer you have in the internet, a web host is not dissimilar to the concepts you have these days of things like OneDrive or Google Drive. It's simply a folder with files on the internet. The difference about web hosting is they've been going for years before that kind of cloud storage happened. And the files are stored in such a way on the right kind of servers, if you like, the computers, that allow them to really be specifically for websites. So the files, the web host knows very much that anything that lives on it is relevant to a website as opposed to your Word documents. But in concept and actually in reality, it is very, very, very similar to just a folder on the internet. Now, if we had a folder on the internet and there was nothing in it, in our folder, or there were no files on that web host, and our domain name pointed there, and someone navigated to mymembers.co.nz, we would simply see one of these, a blank page, nothing. There's nothing there. So it'll probably display an error message or some kind of, this web host is not ready, a default page that it displays to anyone who hasn't yet built their website. But now we have our domain name and our web host, which we've bought in one go. I just should explain, this costs you about $10 a month New Zealandish, or 10 to 20 New Zealand dollars a month. It shouldn't cost you any more than that. Again, I really hate it. I always hear people that are quite new to websites and they tell me how much they're paying for these two things, and they're usually getting ripped off. So just be aware of those and shop around. So once we've got these two things in place, which are pretty simple to set up, once we put your credit card details in, they'll make it for you. You end up with a blank website. And you go, that's not very cool. But yes, you do. Now you have your piece of land and you have your address, 10 Hill Street, and you have your piece of land. It's now time to build a house. And just like with the human population, and just like what I had to do in the 90s, when web people and people who understood how to make websites started making websites, just like humans made houses, used to make pretty crappy houses. You used to have to design it yourself, and we used to write websites in Notepad. So you've seen Notepad, it comes with Windows. It's really just a text editor, a very simple version of Microsoft Word. We would write something called HTML, which is still the language of a website. You'd write it by scratch, and you'd stick it on your web hosts. You'd have your little bits and pieces. So this might be your Notepad file. It might have some code in it, which is like HTML. Spelled that completely wrong. You have a closed bracket HTML, and then if you've ever looked at the source code of a website, you might see something like this, but a lot more confusing. And you have body, and within the body tags, you have your website. It might say "Hello World, welcome to my website." Actually, if we put a file, we save that file, we called it a .html file, and we chucked it on a web host into our folder, it would actually display "Welcome to my website." That's simply what a website is. But it's a pretty crappy website. And if you went to all the websites and all they had on their website was simply the words "Welcome to my website," then you knew it was a crappy website. And so in the last 20 years, people have figured out that you don't just want to write Notepad websites. And actually, not only that, the stuff I have to write in here, I have to rewrite again and again and again. And what happens if I want to edit "Welcome to my website"? So they've really developed apps, just like you have on your phone, just like you have on your computer. And now you can install an app, just like you install a game or Microsoft Office or anything like Spotify on your computer. You install an app, an application, a program onto your web host these days. And the most common program that you install onto your website, and it sounds scary, but it's not, it's, again, a click button, a wizard, is a CMS, a content management system. And a content management system makes making a website simple. It's called a content management system, but it could easily be called a website maker. And it probably is called a website maker on a few websites. The most common brand of CMS out there, there's quite a few of them, there's lots. That's free, what's called open source, free, and used on at least 25% of all websites in the world, is WordPress. And WordPress came from simply being a blog, like you've gone to blog websites. I'll elaborate what blogs are. And now it's really a full CMS solution that you can use for any type of website you want. Fancy, what called brochureware website, where you've just got images, or a blog, or a used website, or a community website, or a e-commerce website. You might have heard of, say, for example, Shopify. Shopify, still underneath it, has a domain name, a web host, and an application which they've built for themselves on top. So there's no different to that, except for in this case, we're doing it the old school way. A domain name, web host, and we've installed WordPress on top of it. It's where all our website files live. So these are the three elements that make up of any website. The website itself, and in this case, a CMS solution, and I'll talk about the files that are on there. They live on a web host, and you have a domain name that points to the web host. The address of your house, the land, and the house itself. And WordPress allows us to change what our house looks like. So it's very, very simple introduction there. It's part 1 of this tutorial, is really explaining what these 3 elements are. So I have got a domain name, I've got a web host, which I'm paying for, and I've installed WordPress. And when I installed WordPress, it asked me what I wanted to call my WordPress site, which I called My Members, same as the domain name. I gave it a description, I gave it a username and password. And simply by doing that, I ended up with this. It installed WordPress, and it took me to this page. None of this I told it to do. This is simply what WordPress, when you install WordPress, you get this by default. Today or this week, WordPress is consistently updated and written and really quite cool by a whole bunch of guys who work for free on this stuff. This happens to be the what's called the theme, the default theme, and it just happens to, I don't know why they thought it was pretty. Everyone who installed WordPress gets this theme. It's this image, the name of your site, a little description, the name of this page, which is the home page, and it has to have a footer, which just reminds us that this is made by WordPress. It's not very pretty. This is not what we want our website to be. However, it's much better than just having a website that was blank and had the word hello, welcome to my website. So even though it looks better, there's not much we can do from this front end. We can click on a few things. So you go, oh, well, that's nice, but what's the point in using a CMS, in this case WordPress? So I'm instead of using the word CMS, I'm just going to say WordPress, knowing that WordPress just happens to be the CMS we're using. So in order to get to WordPress and do anything with our website, and the reason why we want to use WordPress as our CMS, and I'll show you, it's to get to the back and start to make some changes to this stuff. And that might be a one-off change to get the website sorted out, the design of it, or it might be to change it on a daily basis or add a blog post, for example. In order to get to WordPress, once we've saved our site, we enter /login into the URL. At this point, it gets us to log in. And these were the details I entered when I installed WordPress. If someone else has done this for you, they will give you the username and the password for your website. When we click login, we'll go to the back end of WordPress, and it all looks a bit different and new and scary. And that's okay. I'm going to go through each one of these elements. I'm just eating some food at the same time, and I'm going to explain what you use and what you don't use. A lot of people get scared when they look at the back here and go, there's too much going on, what have I got myself in for? All CMSs of some description have similar options. They're all called something different, but they're all exactly the same in some way. Some are better than others, and WordPress is the one that I think is the one that we should be using. I'm going to show a diagram of what this all is. But for the first thing that we've landed on is the dashboard. And the dashboard just gives us a whole lot of stuff that WordPress thinks is important when you're running the website. It says, welcome. Would you like to customize your site, change the theme, which is we'll talk about that. Would you like to be able to edit the front page or add more pages or blog posts or view what your website looks like? And I'm going to actually click open new tab, and that's going to just mean that we've got our website over here. In the back end here, do you want to add any widgets or menu options? Do you want to allow comments to happen? Do you want to learn more about how to get started? So there's thousands and thousands of videos and online information about WordPress, which is another reason for using it. Now this dashboard, it took me a while to understand, but there's actually an option up here called screen options. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to dismiss this. I'm going to go to screen options, and I'm just going to quickly click these things. The reason why I'm doing that is that simply this stuff is not that important for us to see. I'm just going to clear that so we've got less confusion going on. On the top, we have this top banner. There's an area where we can log in and out. Not worry about this stuff. Got the WordPress, which takes you some WordPress links that you never ever click on. You've simply got the ability to navigate to your website, which is exactly the same as putting the name up there. If someone had commenting on our blog, we would get notified. And then we've got a new quick link new where we can add a new post, a new page, and some other stuff that I'll get to. I've opened our website, view site, on another page. So I can click on here and it'll take us to a website. And when you look at the website, which I have in a new tab anyway, it's now we've logged in, a top level admin bar has appeared. You only ever see this, no one else sees it unless they're logged in. And it puts it in here and it allows us to quickly do some stuff that we might want to do. It's really useful on a day-to-day basis when you're using a website. And it gives us some options. Actually, to be honest, we navigate this guy back to the dashboard. They're no different to these options. These are just more elaborate options. It's pretty similar to this guy. If we go here, there's just something called customize and edit the existing page we're on. So before we get into all these options, I'm actually going to show you a diagram explaining what WordPress is, or what a CMS is and what WordPress is built on. So this diagram here, WordPress has, like all these menu options, which we're talking about here, it really has 4 different bits of the pieces of puzzle that it makes up. And I've chosen 4, but someone else might explain it in 3 or 10. You have WordPress, which is our CMS, our content management system. Just reminding you of that, which we've installed, ready to go. You have in WordPress the ability to change, the reason why we use the CMS, which is good, easily change what the website looks like. We do that through changing its appearance, through the use of themes, through changing what the menu might be. So I'm going to just show you what I mean by that. We go to our website. This is a certain theme. The fact that this has this here and that there and this all around here, the template or the theme, the design is a theme. There happens to be no menu, but we have the ability to change that. And some things called widgets, which are just little mini apps, mini tiny apps, like many things, widgets that when you go to a website, they might be like what exists on the sidebar of a website sometimes along here. Some quick little navigation thingies. They're called widgets within WordPress. So we can change what our website looks like. That's the point. And if you look on the menu, the back-end menu option, all these options appear under this appearance option. So this is quite an important element or menu option where we can change what it looks like. It's the appearance. Then, once we've changed what it looks like, and you don't do that very often, you might do that once, to be honest. Once we've decided over our theme and made it look a certain way, then the other thing we can do is we want to add content. And WordPress or any website is fundamentally made up of web pages, and within a page, be that the front page, which is this, the home page, or any other page of our website, the page contains things, media, so pictures, images, whatever, links, and this option's never used these days, it's just from back in the day. Page might have some hyperlinks, and posts. And posts are the content, the actual physical pieces of content. So if I went to, say, CNN again, I'm going to describe this. This is not, I don't think this is built on WordPress, but I'm going to explain what a post is. A post is a news article, one of these things, right? This is a sidebar. This is really a post. This is a post. This is a post. If you go to something that's someone else's blog, trying to think of someone else's blog that might be good. Medium is a good website for blog posts. Simply has news articles, someone's blog, and every single one of these, this is a great example actually. This is probably built on WordPress. Medium, just simply, this is a post. So when you go on websites and you see these things, these are posts, and this is a page. And all one of these things are menu options, which are links to pages. And this is a side option. So our web page can look like this if we want it to. So going back to our web page, you have a page which contains links, media, and posts. That's our content. Content being all the things that display on the website. In addition, the reason why WordPress is quite good, apart from the fact that you can easily change its appearance, and I'll explain why that's important. Well, it's obvious you want your website to look cool, but there are a lot of people, and I will go into it now, a lot of people that make themes for WordPress. So you can just download them, install them, just like you'd change a theme maybe on your phone or your desktop or your background or your desktop or whatever. A theme is like it's all built and you can select that. And people sell themes for WordPress, and that can make your website look the difference between what Medium's laid out and CNN's laid out could simply be a theme that someone's designed. That's saying, where do I want things to appear? So the theme is the look of the website. And a lot of people actually pay a web designer, to make their own theme if they want it to be completely different. I'm guessing Coca-Cola, probably Coke, not Coke. Coke wouldn't use a theme that someone's probably just made and sold, but this isn't a very good layout, to be honest. This is simply could be a WordPress theme. It's actually pretty crap. I'm not sure why. I'm sure the global one looks a lot better. Let's go to Coke. No. So this is pretty shit. But they've paid a web designer to design this theme. Well, obviously, they've got someone internally who does that. But all these are just different themes. That's our appearance of our website. And the content, the specific articles and images and items everywhere, that's the content of the website. The other thing that WordPress does extremely well, apart from lots of people are writing themes, so we don't have to, and we don't have to pay web designers lots of money, is it allows us to add these things called plugins. And plugins are apps just like on your phone. If your phone was WordPress, you can add, Snapchat and Facebook and all the rest of it, little apps to your WordPress site. And they're not just apps like WordPress or plugin Snapchat or whatnot. They're apps that can talk to other apps on the website, and they're really, really useful. And WordPress, there are people that just develop plugins for WordPress 24/7 and sell them, and a lot of them are free. And that's the appeal of WordPress. The reason why they're free is because WordPress is free, and the whole community of WordPress says, well, I think you should give away some stuff that's free, but you can pay for some of this stuff. So these are three fundamental bits that work together to make your website the way that it should be. So in the case of CNN, they might say that they want a plugin that allows you to sign up for a newsletter. There'll be an option of that somewhere on here. And that could be a plugin that they have installed, or a search plugin, or here we go. This is an example of probably a plugin, which may well be a widget. So we can add all these plugins, and there are so many. So for example, WordPress being quite raw as a CMS, if we wanted to choose to change it into a shopping website within our CMS, instead of building a whole new website, we can add a plugin called WooCommerce, which happens to be free, and it adds a whole shopping cart experience to WordPress. Sometimes when you add a theme, it says, hey, it'd be really cool, can you install these plugins so your website looks cool at the same time. And then on top of that, you've got admin functions that you use to run WordPress. So on top of that, you've got the ability to add new simple things like adding users, some basic CMS options about how you want your website to work, and simply some tools about importing or exporting some WordPress stuff. I'm going to show you how that works in terms of the menu options at the top. So we go to our website, got our homepage. We've got pages which contain links, and all that stuff really goes together. And the comments are just people that have commented on our posts. That's all really, it looks scary, but all those things are all just about that. And we're going to go into, this is really what we're going to go into detail about in the next tutorial, all these things here, how we create our content. This is simply just a login, so all that's really together. We can change our theme for our website, and we can add plugins. And these are really those admin areas that we don't really touch too much. So you're really just touching the plugins, which you might do not very often. The theme you might just do once and changing what it looks like, and the content that you do change quite often, and we'll get to that in the next tutorial. So before we go today, I'm just going to show you the themes, because this is what our website looks like, and it's got a theme in there by default. If we went to themes on the appearance menu, there are a whole lot of free themes that we can install and we can go add new themes and upload one that we might have bought. And you'll see here, just by looking at these, they're all different layouts and designs. And it's very easy to change the theme. You simply select one, you download it you'll see when you add a new theme. You can pick from thousands of free ones, or you can buy one. Say if we want our website to look like this, we would install it, which downloads it to the web host. And simply saying go to the internet and download those files. Then we can activate it, and when we activate it, it changes the design of our website. So now we've activated that. That's our new active theme. It appears on the top left. If we visit our website or refresh the page, you'll see that the website has changed quite dramatically and looks really quite cool, and I quite like that theme. So that's your starter in terms of your website. And we'll go into themes in more details when you buy them, but from here we can change a few of these options. So I'm going to do a tutorial about changing the look and feel separately around the look and feel of our website, and I'm going to do a tutorial about the content, the stuff up here, next time. So thanks for listening, and that's tutorial 1, an overview of WordPress. Thanks.